Hey guys, welcome back to Red, White, and Boosted. I'm Colin, and I am again at Neil's Restoration. This is starting to feel like Tyler Hoover and the Wizard, but this is Neil, of course. You guys have met him a couple times. This is the 1970 Jaguar, one owner I bought from my next door neighbor. When I bought it, he thought that it ran, but it didn't have a transmission that worked or brakes. Both those things I fixed in one day, but that was about as far as I could go. To get the rest of it dialed in, I had to bring it to Neil. And a couple of problems with the car were that didn't start for crap. It didn't accelerate hardly good at all. The carburetors were kind of junky. The ignition system, we found out later, was total junk. And the biggest issue, I think, was the cooling problem. So Neil was able to dial it. Neil, you want to help me open the bonnet? Neil was able to fix a lot of these problems, and so getting it running and driving mechanically perfect was the most important part. So a lot of people have touched this car over its life. Would you agree?
Yeah, and some should not have.
Right. And so no fault to Woody, because I'm sure he's going to watch this video, but when this car was new and he was driving it every day, I don't even know how many times the tachometers rolled over or the odometers rolled over, but this was his sole means of transportation for 47 years. So with that in mind, when you drive things places and you have a breakdown or you need something repaired, you go where you can. And back then, this was just another sports car, kind of like driving a 911 today, like a 10-year-old 911 today, or a 20-year-old 911 today. You know, it's a cool car, but I wouldn't call it untouchable by most shops. I mean, the shop right next to Neil's probably works on cars like that all the time. And maybe they're the most qualified, maybe they're not. So in that case, it has a really we've discovered a couple things. It has a really funky oil filter, which may or may not have been factory. There was a crack in this exhaust header and may or may not still be there. And the funniest thing that I found, or he found, was that this tach drive, so this creates a field and then it sends a signal to the tach. So it's an electronic tachometer, and have they always been that way since they created them?
Tach generators have been around since the beginning of the XK motors. The very early ones were cable drive, and then they went to this tach generator, and then later on they went to an electronic sending unit or electronic system in the tachometer itself that read the opening and closing of the points that came off the coil.
So this has been around since '61 when the XK or
E-type generator is extremely reliable. Very unusual to see one bad. This one, the drive was not engaged. The tach generator drive.
It's like a little tab coming off the end.
It was not engaged into the end of the camshaft.
And that was because it was too short.
Too short.
Not the camshaft fault or any kind of fault of the engine, but how did they find that weird little, it's like some aftermarket part that wasn't made correctly?
It's an original part, except what did it come off of? Because, you know, I'm just not familiar with different length dog drives on tach generators.
Right.
So anyway, I happen to have one.
Very cool. Neil has tons of parts.
The actual wiring was cut. So our initial investigation, we just connected these connections were also very bad. So we redid the connections here, traced the end of the wire. It was literally separated behind the expansion tank. So we connected all that, still no tachometer. Then we removed the tach drive, discovered that it was too short to engage the camshaft. I happen to have another tach generator that had at least 100 thousandths, 125 thousandths longer dog. So
love it. So then we
installed that, and now it works.
Took on the radiator.
Biggest problem the car had, I'd say, you know, along with the exhaust, is the cooling system. So the radiator's been recored. We have new fan motors, and all of that works exactly right now. Lots of airflow with the fans on. We exchanged the aftermarket exhaust system with a stainless steel exhaust system that is all brand new from downpipes back.
That's pretty.
Carburetors, fast and slow idle, were adjusted improperly. Choke mechanism was adjusted improperly. Secondary throttles, they made an attempt to remove them, and they managed to get the throttle plates out, left the shafts in. We removed the shafts, plugged the ends, and that removed that obstruction. Carburetors are now functioning well, not perfect, but well. And the car runs a lot closer to its intended power and acceleration.
Yeah, felt good yesterday. Maybe a little more timing, a little more cleaning up in the carbs, but
yeah, some finer
minor
tuning.
tweaking.
I'm going to look at the timing a little more.
Yeah.
The distributor was not advancing, so pulled the distributor, took it completely apart, freed the centrifugal advance up, and that's all working. Points were burnt, which is interesting since a recent invoice showed that the points were replaced. They were pretty much burnt to a crisp. And they'd also closed up, which retards the timing. You know, a number of electrical issues, headlights, that required basically rebuilding the main lighting switch, which these old switches, you can take them apart, and most of the time you can just clean them, put them back together,
yeah,
and they'll function. Driving lights, same thing, except it had a bad relay.
Okay.
And wiring that was not, one light was not connected at all. So got those working. Turn signals, just a number of issues that...
Horn, you fixed the horn?
The horns now operate.
The brake little thing over here?
Yeah, the reaction valve filter, that's all
looking good.
back to where it's supposed to be.
Right, so thermostat, radiator,
yeah, put the
pretty much every part of this engine's been
correct
touched.
Thermostat.
Every exterior part of this engine has now been touched, more or less.
Well, carburetors, distributor, thermostat, exhaust. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you know.
agreed. Well, anyways,
you know, we're just trying to, as I've told you, just trying to make it a functional car.
Yeah, that's the first step for sure.
The car came with a system. You want it functional.
Right.
I mean, you know, you just want it to work.
So we're sending the speedometer off to get rebuilt.
Yep.
And then tackling the interior and top.
Yeah, the top is going to be one.
And then it's like a 90% car.
Next thing.
Maybe higher than that.
It becomes a driver. Right.
Well, Neil, thank you so much. You've done a great job. It's probably not over yet. But, so that's all I know, man. So you have another one of these coming in like a couple months.
On the 18th.
Oh, of this month?
Yep.
July 18th. All right, guys, so obviously we made it pretty well. This is worship, and things are going awesome here. So met with a couple friends, probably gonna head home, but this is my good friend Brooks. He's about to start this car up. Takes a minute, but car is gorgeous.